Hi grade ones, I'm here outside in my backyard on a beautiful day and I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about seeds and planting, and we're going to do a fun bean seed planting experiment. So you might have a little bit of background noise because I am outside and there are cars driving by and dogs barking, but I had to do this planting video out in the sunshine. So what we're going to do to start this activity is I want to read you part of this story, how a seed grows. Now I'm not going to read you the whole thing because at the end of this story there is an experiment with growing a bean seed, but it's different than the experiment that I want to do with you. So I will read part of the book and then we'll talk about the experiment. Now in this story, how a seed grows, we're going to look at a few different types of seeds and how they start as a little tiny seed, what they look like, and what they grow into. Now, in my last video with you, we looked at some other different types of seeds and we actually planted some seeds to do an experiment. So this is kind of a part 2 to that. Okay, so let's listen to How a Seed Grows by Helen Jordan, illustrated by Loretta Krapinski, and published by Scholastic. Thank you, Scholastic, for allowing me to read this story. A seed is a little plant. It is a plant that has not started to grow. Apple trees and daisies, carrots and corn, clover and wheat all grow from seeds. Here is a tree seed. Someday it will be a tree like this. Isn't that amazing how a giant tree like this starts just as a tiny little seed? You actually see these seeds sometimes floating around the air or falling off of the trees. Here is a flower seed. Someday it will be a flower like this. And this is a sunflower, and it comes from a sunflower seed. We actually sometimes snack on or eat sunflower seeds. So it's pretty amazing that this beautiful sunflower starts as a tiny little seed that looks like that. Some seeds grow very slowly. These are the seeds of an oak tree. An oak tree grows very, very slowly. Suppose you planted an oak tree seed. You would be a father or a mother or even a grandfather or grandmother, and the oak tree would still be growing. Now I know that we do have some oak trees around Lethbridge, and they are some of the biggest trees. And when you see an oak tree, they usually have a lot of branches and they're kind of a dark gray color, and they're really big and old. They take a long time to grow to full size. Some seeds grow fast. This is a bean seed. It grows very fast. It grows so fast that it becomes a bean plant in just a few weeks. And we planted a bean seed in our last video, and today our experiment is also going to be with a bean seed. You can plant bean seeds yourself. We use pole beans. You can use pole beans, bush beans, or lima beans. You can plant the seeds in eggshells or tin cans or little cups or little flower pots. Be sure that your containers have holes in the bottom. And the reason they need to have holes in the bottom so that when you water them, the water has room to drain out so that they don't get too much water in their roots. Okay, now the next page is where I'm kind of going to stop because it says we used eggshells. We used a pencil to make holes in the eggshells. We filled 12 eggshells with soil like this. We made a hole in the soil with a finger like this. So I know that a lot of us eat eggs, and this is a neat idea because instead of throwing your eggshells in the garbage or putting them in your garburator or your compost, you could use those eggshells, rinse them out, put some soil inside, and then try to plant some seeds inside. It's a neat idea, something to try. But today, our experiment, we're going to try something different with the bean seed. And we're going to make our own little greenhouse. And a greenhouse is something that you might see at a garden center where you buy plants or flowers. Some people have them in their backyards, and it's like a little house that might be made of metal, but it has kind of a clear plastic or a clear glass over top of it so that the sunshine can get in to allow the plants to grow, because we all know that plants need sunlight, water, nutrients, right? And air in order to grow properly. So the greenhouse that we are going to make today, you will find on the printable part of our Week at a Glance. So you can print out this template for a greenhouse, or if you don't have a printer, you can just make your own from a piece of paper. All you need to do is cut off the corners, and then you can write your name on it. You can write when you planted it. That's kind of important to see how far along your seeds progress. And then I drew and colored some vegetables and some planting watering cans on my greenhouse. So you can put whatever you want to decorate on your greenhouse. Now, the next step I did was I cut the corners off, and I cut a great big square in the middle. And in that square, if I turn it around, you will see that there is a plastic Ziploc bag. So before I did that, I put inside the Ziploc bag, I took 2 cotton balls, and these are actually like those cotton pads that I use to wash my face. You can use cotton balls if you have them at home. Even paper towel works. So cotton pads, cotton balls, paper towel, you'll need 2 of them. You want to soak them in water, get them really nice and wet. And then I took 2 bean seeds, and I kind of use the cotton like a little blanket. So I set the bean seeds on top of the wet cotton like a blanket. And the seeds that I used were these are just pinto bean seeds from Superstore. So they look like, if you take them out of the bag, they kind of look like this. Okay, they're just a tiny little pinto bean seed. So once I have those bean seeds on the cotton pads, then I put them inside of the Ziploc bag, I zip it up, and then I taped the Ziploc bag around the edges of the square. Now, because we know that plants need sunlight to survive, I'm going to take my greenhouse in a window somewhere. So I want to make sure I'm taping it in a window that gets lots of sunlight. And over the next few days, you're going to keep an eye on your seeds and see what happens to them. So you should start to see the seed coat start to break open and some roots start to form. And then on the other end of the seed, you should start to see a shoot or a stem start to break open. Now, if you're noticing that your cotton starts to get a little bit dry, you could add a little more water inside, or even take them out, get the cotton wet, and then put them back in. But we would love to see your pictures of your greenhouses. You can drop or send us a picture of them taped on your window, or of you making your greenhouse, and then we especially want to see some pictures once your beans start sprouting. Okay, so we hope that you have lots of fun with this activity, and in the past when we've done this with our class, every experiment kind of turns out different. Some beans have grown in like a loop-de-loop all over the bag, some have just grown a little, and some haven't grown at all. And sometimes it just depends on the conditions. So give it a try and see what happens with your bean seeds. So I hope that you have lots of fun with this little greenhouse experiment. Thanks for joining me.